Digital transformation is sweeping across the UK, and although the world has been wrestling with the COVID-19 pandemic, it's no secret that any business involved in IT or with processes reliant on technology have been relatively unaffected by the virus and continue to operate. The likes of Amazon and Microsoft spring to mind, and in particular the use of Zoom, which became a household name seemingly overnight. But what is digital transformation and why is it integral to the changing world we live in? Over the next half hour, you'll hear from Q Roots, Empowering Communities in True Compliance, three very different companies to each other, yet experts in their field. First, we should ask, what is digital transformation and how does it work?
I would describe digital transformation as taking a process that was once manual to a certain extent and putting it into a system that then allows you to automate certain processes and change the way of visibility and access to that process.
Digital transformation is the process of essentially transforming what are manual or manual processes into digital processes. That offers the opportunity for time saving, but also the capabilities to do more with less, I guess.
To me, digital transformation means actually having a review of your business processes and looking at how technology can be integrated within that to actually drive through improvements, particularly in relation to customer service and operational delivery. We obviously are a software as a service company, so we are very digitised in what we do. We're completely paperless. But obviously we're still on that journey because technology is moving so fast that to keep pace with all the new functions and technology available, you need to constantly be reviewing what you're doing. And we're also, I think, enablers to our customers in the public sector, who I would say kind of quite lag behind a little bit from the private sector in terms of where they are in digital transformation for various reasons. But because we offer platforms which can tackle multi-areas of business, we actually make that digital transformation quite seamless for them.
For digital transformation to work, there should always be a keen eye on the people delivering and receiving the final product.
I think all organisations should start their digital transformation journey, and it is a journey, a constantly evolving journey. I think they should start that by focusing on their core values. And for most organisations, that will be the customer experience, customer service. And looking at where you can introduce technology into those business processes to drive through those improvements and have a clear idea of where you are now and where you want to get to, and have a clearly defined roadmap, a good solid change management program. I think you need to consult with your staff because often they've got they know how to do their jobs. They know how to make the improvements. They know which steps could be automated by technology to drive through those efficiencies. So I think it's a combination of all those things and be open-minded and alive to the fact that technology is improving really, really fast, and to keep pace, you've got to be constantly reviewing that digital transformation journey.
I think the involvement of the customer needs to be understanding that this isn't just a step in the right direction, this is a leap in the right direction. So what we're trying to do is say, look guys, what you were doing was fine for that process. Now let's look at what you have and how you can change. Because ultimately what you want to do is reduce your admin time. Now, one of the things that we do is we provide information to the user in widgets. So we basically answer questions that the customer always have immediately in a live dashboard. And that means they spend less time looking for the answer and more time fixing the problem. I think ultimately it needs to be a new way of thinking. You can't just take what you've done before and convert it digitally, because all you're doing is taking that same waste that you had before that was inevitable because it was a manual, paper-based process or very limited digital process, and now you're totally digitalizing it and just transferring the same problems across. You need to take time in refining those processes, looking at things and saying, do we need to do that again? You know, you are doing things potentially to fix problems that no longer exist. There are so many occasions that we speak to people and we say, why do you do that? And they say, oh, because we have to put the thing in the box file. And we said, well, you don't have to do that anymore. Why are you now still doing this? Oh, I don't know. And that's the change that needs to be made. So yes, speed is really important because you need to react to the process change. If with innovation is never, I've had a fantastic idea, stop. Innovation is always, I've had a fantastic idea, and then the next month, the next year, someone goes, I've got an even better idea. And they build on top of it. It's not just one single piece. And I think where people get distracted is they say, right, we need to do that and nothing else. And that's where you see big blue chip companies do a lot of that, where they do move very slowly in terms of their innovation, where smaller, more agile, this is where the big boom of these apps have come from. Your Ubers, your Deliveroos, and all these have really disrupted the industries because they have been able to change with the demand of their customers. Whereas Microsoft and Google, as we see, have not been able to do the same reaction.
The best thing that can happen to a company that embraces digital transformation for me is the return on investment. So it's not just the economic return on investment, for us it's the social return on investment as well. We've implemented or designed solutions for projects. And some of these are some of the largest projects in the UK, for example. There's a Pan-London project around vulnerable young people where we introduced a digital solution. Now they had the ability to manage 260% more vulnerable people with no additional resources to do that. But what they also saw was that they saved hundreds of hours in saved administration time. So that's the real key one for us, is that return, the economic and social return on investment, but they'll also see an enhanced data capture, which is important because some of the projects we were doing, in fact, even in Western Australia, in the Pilbara area there, we were involved in some projects where, and it happens everywhere, all over the world, is where organisations that are totally committed to helping people, but because of the funding process, you're pitting one organisation against the other, and so they start to see their clients as dollar signs or pound signs. And so if you can get them to work collaboratively, that is better for the client, the person they're looking to support, because invariably it isn't just going to be one organisation that does it, but that enhanced data capture ensures they get the statistics that they need to reassure their funders. So for us, they're the key benefits.
The key benefits in terms of going digital are the ability to clarify your communications. So make sure that you are all talking about the same thing and that you're not saying, are you going up the road or down the road? Is it on this side of the road? Is it on that side of the road? That's one thing. Next thing is the speed of the ability to process solutions, so to discover the transport routes. What that gives you is an ability to then test alternatives and do what we would call a what-if scenario. So you could look at routing children to one school, but you could then say, well, hang on, this school's not that far away. What happens if we share the transport between the two schools, and what opportunities are there? And that is something that wouldn't have been available to planners in the past because the process was so long. The other thing that's happening in planning at the moment is the numbers of children that qualify for special educational needs and disabilities transport is going up year on year. This is a significant amount of money that local authorities spend. It's in excess of 1 billion per year. About 69% of that money is spent on special educational needs and disabilities transport, but that's only 26% of the children that travel. So you've got the majority of the money being spent on the minority of the children who have the additional needs. And it's not that anyone has a problem with that. You know, we feel quite passionate about the value of the service that is delivered. But if there are inefficiencies in that service, then that undermines the delivery of opportunities for other children. And indeed, local authorities have been cutting spend on discretionary routes, perhaps for mainstream children, by 27% in the last 5 years. So you're seeing a growth in the number of special educational needs children, a growth in the spend on that, and therefore a decrease in the amount of money that is there to support sustainable travel for other children. What we believe we can deliver through digital transformation is efficiencies in the expensive area, which enable more money to go around and perhaps continue to deliver some of those discretionary services.
At the end of the day, if a new solution cannot assist the end user, then it has little point in being made.
I think for any organisation to successfully implement and embed a digital transformation process, framework, it's about the hearts and minds of the staff, the people who actually are your organisation. People don't like change, even though ultimately they appreciate it's going to be change for the better. Ultimately, people are fearful of change. They don't want to have to learn something new. They worry that actually if technology can take over too many parts of my job, then what happens to my job? So it's about, I think, having a really clear internal communication strategy with your staff so that you bring them along with you, you involve them, you consult with them. And actually, technology is embedded in the lives of younger people. So actually, it probably would be a good idea to actually get the younger members of staff to actually lead on some of those sort of key delivery messages, so that actually it feels like it's being done with rather than done to.
We've got younger members of staff coming through who have grown up in a digital age. It'd be good once they start to get into those decision-making roles to drive it through, because I mean they can see, and it must be very, very frustrating to come into an organisation whose hands are tied. They're still trying, they're relying on spreadsheets, they're doing emails, there's pieces of paper flying everywhere, where you can automate a lot of those processes. So I think things have changed rapidly. I think the pandemic is going to drive that, for we have seen a real uptake in the speed at which systems and processes have been replaced with a digital solution. So the next few years is going to be quite exciting, I think, and it will move it forward.
So now we have a better idea as to what digital transformation is. There should be little doubt as to why it is increasingly popular. With the arrival of COVID-19, many businesses were forced to close their doors, but those utilising digital transformation were able to keep working and ensure their staff continue to be productive.
We work in an agile way, which I think is paramount important in this fast-paced, fast-changing environment. And what agile does, at the heart of agile for me, is being close to your customers. So you're highly responsive in listening and understanding to what they want, and to build products which meet their needs at the time that they need it, because their demands are changing. They want, people in their private life have technology which is so convenient for them to use whenever, wherever, and organisations need to make sure that the people that work for them can also come to work and use really modern, up-to-date technology that actually does the job faster and better.
The ability to be agile is extremely important. I think all organisations in the 21st century have to be agile. There is no way now you can work in that old kind of with blinders on and just say, we're just going to roll this out. You need to react to what people want. Also at the same time, you need to react to things that people might not know they want. So I always have an adage which is, I want to give customers what they want, not what I think they want, but also sometimes you need to give people things that they don't even know they needed. So you have to sort of strike a balance, and you can't do that without being agile. Now, with all the technology we have, I mean, we probably subscribe to every single cloud-based system that is in existence. We have Office 365, we have Google G Suite, we have Zoom accounts, we have everything, because we also understand now we're at that point where there's all this access. And people might have a Zoom, people might have a Microsoft Teams, but people might have a Google Chat. So we have to be able to be agile and flexible enough to be able to meet those requirements without making them learn a new piece of technology and creating barriers to having just a very simple conversation. We had a number of demos that we initially made people go through Google Meet, and they've struggled every single time to get on because they live in a Microsoft world. So we very quickly said, right, that's not good enough, we need to get something else. We got Microsoft Teams, and then we saw that actually it was so much easier to let these people roll into our demos, and we found that we were doing more demos because of it. So being agile, although it sounds like a lot of work and it sounds like something that is a nice to have, it's essential for selling, it's essential for just keeping client relationships alive. And I think that's ultimately where the technology comes in, because if you have technology that, like Microsoft, like Google, Amazon, have all built their sort of stalls around this technology, and I think ultimately you're going to have a world where anyone can work in any organisation in the country, and that, in terms of recruitment, means that you could be hiring people in Birmingham and not worrying too much about their, paying them London wage, etc., but they're living in Birmingham, and that's going to maybe sort of change the way that the UK works, while having HS2 is going to be that they can come to the office once in a while to meet their team.
I think for modern businesses today, it's extremely important to work to an agile framework. I believe that working in that kind of smarter, lighter, more responsive way is really the only way that you can remain competitive, because it allows you to bring products to market so much faster.
Technology has allowed traditional ways of working, such as waterfall, to take the back seat. And now, the ability to be agile has meant employees can work smoothly and securely wherever they see fit.
So I think what's been interesting for me is seeing people who have gone from we don't allow home working at all to now going, oh, we're shutting 2 offices, because we have absolutely seen the pound signs of working from home. And that's the absolute wrong reason to start doing this. It's about work-life balance. It's about ensuring that people are able to do what they feel comfortable doing and working in the best environments they can. Now, I would say personally that I have been not working from home, but I've been working at home. And I think there's a very big difference, because I have a child and I've been locked in my bedroom, and I sleep and live in one room for those 3 months. It did feel very claustrophobic, and it did start meaning that I was starting work earlier and earlier and finishing later and later, and that work-life balance really started to fall apart. It wasn't until I started saying I'm going to come in the office 2 days a week that I was able to rebuild that work-life balance, and I think that's been the same for a lot of people.
For all the disruption and the sort of, for want of a better word, devastation that's going to come out of it, the businesses that survive are going to be in a really strong position. That said, obviously the heyday, everyone's feeling slightly tightened belts, and if only out of respect for what's going on elsewhere. In terms of starting a business now, yeah, it's a difficult time to do that. I wouldn't bet the farm too much. I'd work hard and really understand the need that you're trying to fill, because it's going to go back down to needs. What people need is what they're going to pay for a little while.
I don't think it's just technology that's going to help people get through the pandemic and the other side of COVID. I think it's also attitude. I think the business owners need to understand that maybe for some people, they don't want to be stuck in their house share with 8 other people, do it working on a laptop without a desk. I think you need to give people the options. And I've seen far too many people start saying, right, now everyone works from home, right, now everyone comes in the office. I think that balance does need to come. And I think that without striking that balance, you're going to isolate, or you're going to make it very difficult for certain people to work, and ultimately they may find other employment.
For many companies, the ability to be agile is the sole reason they are COVID resistant.
We as a company responded firstly by working from home. We closed the office pretty early. My son had suspected COVID, so I didn't come in and said, let's close the office. And we originally said that was going to be a trial period to see how well that would go. That was the Thursday before the official shutdown. So when the actual shutdown came, that trial became permanent, semi-permanent. And we then had to work out on the hoof how we were going to work. How were we going to continue to do projects, project manage our staff, ensure that they felt supported, ensure that we were there to help them work, but ultimately not feel like we were watching them and ensuring they would, when did you log on, when did you log off? Have you done this, have you done that? Because that then just adds more pressure to already a difficult situation.
As a business, we have been relatively unaffected by COVID-19. We've been very fortunate. We were already largely remote, and it hasn't particularly affected our processes. That said, of course, we're acutely aware of the situation around us and the impact that it's having on our customers, and obviously society as a whole. So it's affected us in the same way as it's affected everybody, but within that spectrum we have been relatively unaffected. I think one of the reasons we've been relatively unaffected by COVID is that we are a small engineering business, and an agile approach, which essentially means the ability to respond quickly and to not, you set short targets and then assess yourself on those short targets all the time, and that gives you the ability to quickly change and adjust. You're constantly reviewing what you're doing. So that is what we do anyway. And as COVID has struck and caused this massive disruption, we've been able to fit that within our existing processes. In terms of being agile going forwards, it's easier for some organisations than it is for others. As I say, we're a small business, there's less than 10 people within us. It's not difficult for us to have the meetings, make the decisions, communicate the choices and action them. We can be very focused, and we can adjust and be nimble in a way that larger organisations can't. Some of the businesses we talk to take weeks to set up a meeting, whereas we can do it by picking up the phone. So yeah, it's there's an agility that comes with being small. There are obviously some drawbacks as well. Sizes has its benefits, and we want to grow, but at the moment you want to grow in a way that helps you maintain some of the benefits of being small and lean.
Post-COVID, when that day does come, is to continue with a policy of working from home with keeping the office open. We already have a desk booking policy, so we have 3 desks currently that are able to be booked. We then will continue that process, extending out the number of desks, so we'll have 6. And then saying, if you want to come into the office, book a desk, come in. If it wants to be every day, that's fine. If you want to be once a week, that's fine. We actually did a poll on our Slack with our team, and I would say it was half and half. 50% of people wants to be in every day, 50% were like, do you know what, one day's fine. I think you need people in. I think seeing people's faces, getting to know people is a really important part of work, and actually what makes work enjoyable. I mean, I personally don't love sitting at my computer on my own working all day. I like to have chats with my team, and we have a laugh and talk about football or whatever, and that's made even more difficult when you're sat at home in front of your own computer.
The benefits of Agile cannot be overstated, but is it here to stay? Has the old way of working left us forever?
No, I don't think they're obsolete. I think they sit within a toolkit of, frameworks that need to be assessed according to what you're trying to achieve. I think there's a tendency for waterfall. People sort of divert to waterfall, and I think that is probably wrong. So I think more awareness about alternatives and ways of working will be useful. But I think remote working is is here to stay to some extent. I think it's widely recognised that people get frustrated with working from home and Zoom fatigue and the difficulty of concentrating. There's lots of non-verbal cues that happen in a room that actually you can't sense via the screen. So it may be that we evolve and adapt so that remote working becomes easier, but I think something was going to be lost, and lots of big companies think the same things. I know that I think both Google and Facebook have just signed up for large offices in central locations in major cities in the US since COVID has struck, and that's a sign that although as technology businesses, they very much are based about connectivity and the fact that you can access from anywhere, but they still recognise that there's value in being co-located, even if it's not every day of the week.
In terms of working with other people, being collaborative, it's so important to work together, and having these barriers of being spread across London as we have been for the last 6 months has meant that there has been miscommunication, things have been a lot slower. I think there have been duplicate work that previously wouldn't have happened had we all been in the same office. However, it does happen. So I think, to say nothing would have happened, not true. But ultimately, if you are a team and you are building a new product like we've been doing for the last year, that last part where everyone has to come together was made even harder by being separated.
So there you have it. The secret to being COVID resistant lies in embracing digital transformation and the changes it brings.